Good evening, everyone. Very excited that all of us are here tonight. Tonight is our fourth community conversation regarding the Mount Vernon Comprehensive Plan. I'm James Rouse. I'm the Commissioner for the Department of Planning and Community Development. Thank you. And we're happy to be hosting these community conversations as part of the 18 to 24-month process of the Mount Vernon Comprehensive Plan. So we're going to be having meetings like this throughout the spring in different neighborhoods, but we're also going to be doing it on Zoom as well. So we have had one session on Zoom, we're going to be doing another, so those of your friends, neighbors, other residents that you know of that are not able to physically attend, please share that they are able to attend virtually. We'll talk a little bit about that information sometime soon. So we're really excited to be hosting this conversations, which will lead up to a couple of public workshops in May and June, which will be larger scale and will be a lot more robust. Tonight will be robust, but we're going to be really doing a deep dive when it comes, the weather starts getting as warm as today was consistently. So just before I begin, before I introduce our lovely mayor, I'd like to just acknowledge some of folks who are here from the city. First, from my team. We have Associate Commissioner Catherine Mejia, who's going to be project managing the process. We have Deputy Commissioner Marlon Molina, who will be helping the community outreach. Our senior planner managing the projector is Will Highland. And Tamika Graham-Otaro, our executive secretary, signed you in tonight as well. So some other folks we have taking pictures for us is Steve Lawrence, our grants administrator. Outside of our department, we have our fire commissioner, Deborah Norman. I believe we have representation from the city clerk's office. Elias, if you would. Oh, you don't? I didn't realize that. My fault. Okay. Well, congrats. Well, I mean, so our, buildings department staff, we have Jamie Passin and Sans Zabo. I think that's it for now. Before I turn it over to Associate Commissioner Mayer to talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing tonight, I'd like to introduce our mayor, Shar Passin Howard.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. How are you doing? Thank you all for coming out tonight. I want to thank Commissioner Rouse and Associate Commissioner Mejia and Deputy Commissioner Molina, our planning director, Mr. Highland, our executive team, and some of the other leaders from throughout the city for being here. But most of all, I want to thank you for coming out, because this is your city. This is where you live. This is where you pay taxes. This is where some of you have grown up. It's where your children are growing up. Some of us will grow old here. And we want to make sure that this community is a place that we can be from birth to death. Right? We want to make sure that our community accommodates everyone from our children to our teens, to our adults, to our elders. We want to make sure that it is a place where we can walk and bike and enjoy ourselves. It is a pet-friendly city. We want to make sure that our parks are robust, that we have a good, strong business district for economic development. We want to make sure that we're preserving our neighborhoods, because the preservation of the neighborhoods are very important. Mount Vernon was always known as the city of homes, and we want to make sure that we have our good traditional neighborhoods preserved, as well as that we're providing new opportunities around our transit-oriented areas for new development, new revenue coming into the city. But most importantly, we want to do this in a way that there is smart growth. All around the country, you have seen communities transform planning or lack of planning being done. And it becomes a community that you don't always recognize. And sometimes that can be good, and other times that can be bad. But it can only be good, and it can only work for all of us if all of us are participating. And so these are some of the first series of interactions around community engagement. When you leave here, call 3, 4, 5 of your friends. Let them know when the next one is happening. We have special sessions that we're going to do fully in Spanish because we want to make sure that that population can participate. We will also be doing it in French Creole, so we want to make sure that those communities can participate. This is for everyone. You will see different department directors here. You're like, well, why is the fire department here? Well, because as we build taller buildings, we have to make sure that the fire department is planning and that we have trucks and we have ladders to be able to reach those higher buildings, that we have the right type of equipment, that we're hiring the right number of firefighters, the police department, the recreation department, so they can hear what you're saying about green spaces. All of these information is very, very important. And so don't think that there's anything too small or too large to kind of provide your input with. We wouldn't come out after work hours. And on Saturdays, if your input was not important. We are not having these meetings just to check a box, to say that we try to engage the community. We are having these meetings, and we are looking for a robust, deep dive to really get your input to make Mount Vernon the vision that is going to work for all of us. Right? We want it to be an equitable and healthy development as our community moves forward. So thank you for coming out. Please participate in a robust way. And when you leave here, I hope that you're so excited and that you know that this is a sincere effort and that you really, really push your friends and your family to come out and participate as well, and especially our young people, because we need our young people's voices as well as our young professionals. Our community, like a church, will die off if young people don't see this as an option and an opportunity for them to buy property and raise their children. It's kind of like a church. I'm a minister, and so it's kind of like the church that gets older, and you're not having younger families and younger children, and then we're all on fixed incomes. It's very hard to maintain a church, a company, or a community when we don't have multi-generational and a diverse population. So please, we want to hear everyone's voice, and we want to make sure that we do this right. We haven't done it since 1968 to the level that we're going to do it, and the community's changed a lot in 55 years, so we want to make sure as we go forward that we do this right. Thank you, and thank you to the staff for all of their commitment.
Thank you, Mayor Patterson Howard. So yes, welcome everyone. If we go to the next slide, we're just going to share a brief overview of our time. We are going to spend some time with you all talking more about the comprehensive plan, making sure you understand what this process looks like and answering any questions. But we want to make sure that the bulk of the time together is really focused on you sharing your vision, your concerns, your ideas for the future of the city. And so as you can see there, we're going to move to the presentation shortly. We're going to spend some time doing a visioning activity, and then we're going to move into a 3-part activity where we'll have you working silently to gather your thoughts, be in conversation with your neighbors, sitting at your table, and then really sharing that back with the rest of the room so we can hear what people are really excited about and what concerns you have as we begin this planning process. Next slide, please. Great. So before we get started, we also have been reviewing community agreements. And so this is a way for us just to be in the space together, make sure we're being respectful, and that we're committed to showing up to really have a robust and engaging conversation tonight. So you have them in front of you on your agenda, but I'm just going to briefly review them. So the first is just to be respectful. Right, we are excited to have as many folks in the room as possible because we know that the diversity of ideas that exist in the city is important. And so we want to be able to have those conversations, and we want to be able to do so respectfully. Be present. We know it's a Thursday evening. Maybe you've had a long day. Maybe you're juggling other things outside. And we are really grateful that you made space to be with us tonight. And we ask if you can, to silence your phone, and just to be as present in the conversation as you can while we're here this evening. Step up, step back. So this is an invitation to those who maybe don't feel quite as comfortable speaking in a room full of other folks or sharing your ideas out loud. So that's an invitation to speak up. We really want to make sure that we hear from as many of you as possible throughout this process. And if perhaps you are always excited to take the mic and share your ideas, we want to hear from you too, and we also want to make sure that you make space for others to speak up as well. One mic. We have one mic, but as we're all speaking, again, just making sure that we give our attention to the person speaking in the room. Challenge ideas, not each other. So again, we want to be able to be in conflict, healthy conflict and dialogue around different ideas around what you all want to see happen here in Mount Vernon. And we want to make sure that if we're pushing respectfully, that we're really pushing on the idea and not doing, saying or doing anything that would be disrespectful to the person who is communicating that idea to the group. And then related to that, speak from your own experience. Again, right, we know Mount Vernon is a very diverse place, and that is what's going to make this a strong plan for really building out the future of the city. And so we really ask you to speak from the experience that you're bringing to the table as we move through these activities tonight. And then finally, just to keep your comments brief, we're going to have, again, different opportunities for you to share your ideas on paper with folks sitting next to you and with the full group. And if you can generally keep your comments brief so we can hear from as many of you as possible tonight, that would be great. Any clarifying questions on the agreements that I just reviewed? Okay, can we all commit to agreeing, to using these community agreements tonight? Can I get thumbs up? Awesome. Thank you, everybody. So with that, I'm going to move us to our presentation. We're going to provide some more context on the comprehensive planning process, who's involved, what the timeline is, and I'm going to have Commissioner Rouse walk us through that.
Thanks again, everyone. Again, I'm James Rouse, Planning Community Development Commissioner. As the mayor stated earlier, this is the first comprehensive plan that we will complete since 1968. It's 55 years since the city of Mount Vernon has had a comprehensive plan. I've spoken to a few people who were surprised at that, since the first community conversation we've had. They had this feeling saying, oh, well, we're really far behind everyone, what are we going to do to catch up? It's 55 years is a long time, but a lot of municipalities have neglected to update or even put forth one comprehensive plan in their entire existence. One misunderstanding about the City of New York is that the City of New York does not have a comprehensive plan. They tried one in 1969, and it failed. And then they never tried again. So the fact that City of Mount Vernon had a comprehensive plan a year before they tried, and we're trying again, means we're, a little behind some other municipalities, but we're on good footing. So don't see it as, we're kind of clawing our way up or punching our way up. We're doing it. We're doing it. And the way we're going to accomplish this is, as I mentioned, it's going to be an 18 to 24-month process, and we're going to do it in 2 phases. Why 2 phases? For a few reasons. The first phase is going to focus on a 40-ish block area surrounding downtown. So City Hall, Mount Vernon East Train Station, Gramerton South 4th, Mount Vernon Hospital. Why are we focusing on downtown? Because downtown impacts us all. We could talk about, some of us live on the north side, south side, Chester Park, Oakwood Heights, Fleetwood, Parkside, all different neighborhoods. But at the end of the day, we're just a little more than 4.2 square miles, and downtown brings us all together. Now, while downtown has not thrived in the way we all have wanted to in recent years, part of it's because of the pandemic, part of it is just because the way the economy works sometimes, it is something that everyone wants to see succeed and thrive. And so it's a way to bring us all together and to talk about a place that impacts us all. Phase 2 is going to go into everyone's neighborhoods. We're going to do the city as a whole. And you may ask, well, is it a little disjointed? This is an opportunity for buy-in. There's a lot of people understandably skeptical about this process. You know, back in 2009, 10, 11, there was a comprehensive planning process that some of you may have participated in that did not quite make it to the finish line. We want to assure we get past that finish line this time. And so we want to gain trust. We want to gain confidence of all of you, your neighbors, and other stakeholders, to make sure that as many voices are heard and part of the conversation as possible. It's not easy. It's not going to be an easy process, but it's going to be a worthwhile process because it's going to lay our foundation. So a lot of people have asked, well, what's a comprehensive plan? What are we going to see at the end of it? And I like to say the comprehensive plan is a beginning. It's the guidebook. It's the blueprint for what we want to do. So the actual work that needs to be done will happen after the comprehensive plan is adopted. And so a lot of the questions that we've heard in the first few community conversations have been, you know, well, what are we going to accomplish here? What are you going to guarantee here? This is not the right time for that. These are the conversations. These are the listening sessions for us. While we're guiding this process, planning community development staff, the mayor and other folks, we are not the ones who are making the decisions and the choices. You know, when we all work together, you know, I'd like to come at it from a certain angle. A lot of folks, when it's like you have a lot of different opinions, and we're bringing all these different opinions to the table, so a lot of people say, well, we got to come to the table and compromise. I don't like that frame of reference. I don't like that point of view, because compromise frames as we have to give something up. We all come with different ideas. Some of these ideas overlap, and those ideas that do overlap, we bring together, we collaborate, and we take the best ideas and move forward with it. There's a lot of individual visions of what Mount Vernon should be, but collectively, the vision for Mount Vernon is made up of all the best individual ideas that we find common ground together. Because once we find that common ground, what does that create? An identity. And identity is extremely important. You know, I like to draw a little triangle. You know, it's a city of Mount Vernon, but it's a suburb of New York. But we function as a small, connected village. And so within that triangle, where does Mount Vernon fit? Some of us look east and west and see what's happening in Yonkers and New Rochelle. Some of us look north and south and see what's happening in White Plains or New York City. And some folks want some of that. Other folks think it's the worst idea possible to see anything taller than 3 stories go up. But there's a healthy middle ground. Mount Vernon has to grow. It's important that we grow. And so when we come together, we have to figure out what's best for Mount Vernon. Just copying and pasting what's happening to our neighbors is not going to be the answer. They can inspire us, they can influence us. But once we figure out who we are as a city, that's how it's going to guide us forward. And because it's about thriving. It's not about competition. It's about thriving and doing what's best for all residents and stakeholders here. Now, we've received some questions like about the process and, you know, how it's being funded. We had a request for proposals go out for a consultant. The consultant that we chose is a Metropolitan Urban Design Workshop, or MUD Workshop. They're a MWBE, minority women-based business out of Brooklyn, small grassroots firm that competed against 4 other firms. They have 2 partners. One is a group called AKRF, who's one of the premier firms in the metropolitan area for environmental and zoning, and Hudson Valley Pattern for Progress, which represents all the Hudson Valley and focuses on housing and economic development and community outreach. And so they have a lot of connections politically also, so that can benefit us, you know, help us guide, find, you know, once we adopt this plan, where the money is and who to speak to. That's going to be very important, because coming up with a plan is a great thing, but you don't want to put it on the shelf. You want to keep it on your desk and look for paths to put what we have discussed, what we have thought, into action. So how are we going to proceed with this? So there's a $250,000 budget that was adopted by City Council. 75,000 of that, our grants team helped raise from the Empire State Development Corporation to help support us. So that funding is going to help support our consultants and all the work that they're going to be doing. Now, some folks may be wondering, where are the consultants? So these community conversations that we're hosting is the brainchild of our department that we had put together after we signed the contract with our consultants. So these conversations, even though we're making them aware and taking all the feedback and input and sharing it with them, unless we change the scope of the contract and, unless the City of Mount Vernon is willing to pay for it, unfortunately, they won't be attending until the public workshops come the spring. So this is kind of the prep. This is to get everything ready. And we're really excited, to have, over 40 people in this room. So far, just in 4 community conversations, we've had well over 200 people in total. That's good. For a city of, over 75,000 people, it may not sound like a lot, but if you've been to community meetings, sometimes you get 1 or 2 people, and that's it. So the fact that each of these meetings, there's dozens and dozens of people, we're grateful, and we're really excited. And so we're just going to go over how, some of the programs, some of the exercises, that we're going to be doing tonight, how we're going to participate, and, how you can get your voice heard. So, I'd like to, again, thank all of you for coming out. I think we've had a few more people from the city come in, our Parks and Recreation Commissioner, Kathleen Pinkney, what's the other? Walker Pinkney, yes. I knew I had the backwards. And our Zombie Properties Coordinator, Josh, if you could wave. Cherie, Buildings Department, stat. Yeah. Anyone else I'm missing? And Hassan, who's managing the camera and the lights and all the sound and equipment for us, back there. So I want to show appreciation for everyone who's come out for the city tonight. So if, afterwards you have questions on a specific topic, please feel free to call it to any one of us. Madam Mayor?
before we open it for questions, I just want to review one more slide. So you all have a timeline in front of you there. And so this is, again, just to give you a sense of what the overall process looks like. As we shared, we are anticipating it's going to take about 18 to 24 months. And you can get a sense of the kinds of work that's happening, the research, the analysis. And as you can see, the one through line is outreach and engagement, right? So as has been already shared multiple times, these community conversations are just the first piece of outreach and engagement. We'll have our first public workshop on April 20th, and that'll be one of 4 workshops that'll happen over the next 18 months. And we'll continue to do surveys. There'll be opportunities to provide feedback on drafts when we have them. And so again, you'll continue to see various opportunities over the next 2 years to really provide your feedback, to share new ideas, to coalesce around priorities, to really get us to that finish line at the end of this process. So before we move to our visioning activity, I just want to make some space to see if there are any questions that folks have on the comprehensive planning process.
I have a question because you mentioned that you hired some consultants. At what point are you going to use the consultants? At what point are they going to be needed? If we're the ones that come up giving the ideas, because I've heard the word consultant used in many instances for many reasons. So I'm just trying to find out where would they be useful?
Yes, so just so you know, the planning department meets with the consultants every other week. So they've already begun the work. They're doing a lot of research and analysis, so really getting a sense of what reports have already been completed around Mount Vernon, right? There have been various studies, so really understanding the past, understanding how demographics have changed, how the city has changed overall, so we can get a sense of where are we now, so that when we talk about the future, we're clear on where we're starting from. They have created some of the materials that are in front of you. They are receiving all of the notes from all of these community conversations, and so their goal will be to synthesize all of this from the next, between now and March, to then have a full presentation at the public workshop in April. So we'll continue to see them throughout the public workshops, and they're doing a lot of the work behind the scenes, really helping to lay the groundwork for the research and analysis so that we're kind of coupling your ideas, your concerns, your priorities with data and marrying that together and having touch points throughout the process to really share that back with you, to make sure it's making sense, to identify what the gaps are and where else we need to continue to kind of dig deeper.
I just want to add what Commissioner Rouse. Oh, I'm sorry. When Commissioner Rouse said, I got phase 1, when he got to phase 2, when he said the individual neighborhoods, how is that going to be done? I mean, how is the selection with the individual neighborhoods? Because we have a lot of neighborhoods here in Mount Vernon.
So for phase 2, we're going to be having more community conversations like this. And so we need your feedback, your input in terms of who the best stakeholders in your communities are to speak to, because we want to centralize and focus on the needs of specific neighborhoods. Now, it could be one specific neighborhood, it could be a cluster of 2 or 3 neighborhoods that are very close geographically and close just as as neighbors. And so, but those conversations in phase 2 will be more focused in the neighborhood and the needs of the neighborhood, from design, development, infrastructure needs. When I say infrastructure, it's not only roads and sewers, but we're talking about like fire department, things like that, and just overall, just how you currently see your neighborhood, where you want to see it go, and brainstorming ideas of how we can get to that point of what direction we're growing and how we're growing. And when I say growth, part of that, I mean, a lot of that is preservation. It's preserving context of the neighborhood. So when we say growth, we just mean moving forward. We grow in different ways. It's not always just 30-story building means growth. Not at all. Sometimes it means preserving. It means upgrading what we already have. And so once once that phase, and the first phase is going to be like a 9-10 month process. So come spring, come early summer is when we're going to have conversations like this within, within the neighborhoods more.
Just as a note, when I received the survey that was done, the neighborhoods were distinguished on the north side. South side was all one thing. And therefore, I just raised that as a question when you're discussing phase 2 being about neighborhoods close together. And the survey that was done, and it's probably just somebody who doesn't know Mount Vernon, but the history of Mount Vernon having between north side and south of the train tracks was repeated in the survey that was done. There was a survey that was distributed for people to produce. I don't know whether it was from the consultants or from where, but there were specific questions related to participation that was related to what you're doing and discussing today. It was a college-related thing. Okay, but if we're going to use it, it's a good example of where we're making mistakes. Okay.
I just wanted to address that. Let me step back. I just want to address that for a second. The city did work a bit with Hunter College at the request of Councilmember Poteet. He had made a connection there, and they were interested in doing a planning and design studio. So as an urban planner, in order to graduate, we need to do a planning and design studio to graduate. So what happens often is that a team of students usually works with the municipality or a not-for-profit to work on a specific project or program. And so that the studio wanted to do something around Mount Vernon East train station. And so we accommodated. And so while we were working with them, they are not officially part of the comprehensive plan. Now, the information and data that they derived from it, will help advise a comprehensive plan because it's free research. Why would we reject that? It's up to date. But in terms of, the survey that was sent out, we're a little bit surprised because actually when we did the walkthrough, we walked south of Mount Vernon East train station and kind of explained it. So that's good information for us to know when we do future partnerships. And we are talking with City Council about partnership with another university to help us do some research. Sure.
Thanks, Commissioner. I appreciate this process for the democratic implications and processes that we want to entertain, but the beginning kind of premises, I'm wondering, in fact, I'd like to challenge in terms of how we even come up with phases 1 through 4 or whatever they're going to be. What data, for instance, or what objective analysis have we been basing this process on? How, for instance, do we know, and not to challenge you directly, Commissioner, trust me, don't take it personally, the question that downtown brings us all together, I would challenge, unless we have data that says downtown has X amount of consumers or producers from a mercantile class that actually lives here. I don't know if we have data. Do you? Do we have any kind of, again, objective rationale to leave the residential aspects to anything but the first rational, address, or at least a parallel? Because a lot of the objective, anecdotal evidence I have from a lot of my elders is that Mount Vernon, for the better part of the last 60 years, has been kind of an apartheid state. So the mercantile class that may or may not, at this point, run downtown, may be the first beneficiaries to a whole other community that will not exist in phase 2. And we don't know where that's going to be in maybe 10 years. So that's a question.
Oh, do you want to answer?
So back in 2016, I was the planning commissioner. And I can tell you for the last 7 years, most of the applications for development in Mount Vernon are happening in the phase 1. Our neighborhoods are our neighborhoods. So no one is saying, I want to tear down 3 houses in Kingsbridge Heights and build a 15-story apartment building. They're saying, I want to build along the First Street corridor or up 4th Avenue or over in that industrial area that we have in that 3rd Street, 4th Street area between, on 4th Avenue and on 5th Avenue. Those are where the applications are coming in, right? Not necessarily in the Heights here. I live on South 3rd Avenue. Like I said, Kingsbridge or Fleetwood. Those are our neighborhoods. Those are very stable neighborhoods. We're not throwing up big buildings or anything like that or bringing in industrial buildings in those neighborhoods. And so what we're talking about are the neighborhoods that have more of a flux. But what we've seen in Mount Vernon is a building will pop up here, something will pop up over here, and it's disjointed. So we're saying this is the vision that we want to see for this area, and then we can go out and say, if you're interested in developing or if you're interested in doing a project, it has to fit what we want it to look like for our community. Our neighborhoods, for the most part, are stable. What is destabilizing our neighborhoods, our residential neighborhoods more than anything, is that people are losing their homes and investors are coming in and purchasing these homes and then they're renting them out and they're not owner occupied. So that's what's destabilizing residential neighborhoods, not an apartment building, not a supermarket. And so we're looking at where we can have the quickest economic development, business development, tax revenue growth, and things of that nature. And so that is the downtown area that is going to help us also grow financially. And if we don't start developing that, we're not going to have any neighborhoods left because everyone's going to lose their homes because we're not going to have a tax base. We're not going to have a robust tax base that increases and grows with the level of financial responsibilities that we have in our community. And so this is not being determined by anyone outside. A lot of times the need dictates it. Our neighborhoods are our neighborhoods. We're not looking to level 5 blocks of residential houses and build something new, but the applications are coming saying, over here in this neighborhood, it's zoned for a 6-story apartment building. I want to build something 15 stories. And we want to get the ideas from the community about that as opposed to just at a zoning board meeting, right? Mount Vernon has become very disjointed, and we want to start making the core of our community more centralized and jointed that can benefit and benefit the communities and the neighborhoods around them as we continue to grow out, if that makes sense.
Well, it would make sense with data, and that's what I'm asking. Because we don't know, for instance, how many people that live here shop on 4th Avenue or Senator Boulevard, for instance, right? Or how many people own businesses, and what does that mean to the tax base in dollars?
But that's what we're asking. So we want to get information on what people want to see. Because I can tell you when I go on 4th Avenue, it's not us shopping. We don't shop here unless it's for hair or nails or something like that, some sneakers. You got to pick up something quick and cheap. I don't know how many people have fuzzy toilet cover seats in your bathroom. Those were like so 20 years ago. But we have about 10 stores on 4th Avenue that offer it. And I know, you know how I know who shops on 4th Avenue? Because when we have to go and get signatures, when we're running for office, 75% of the people are like, oh, I don't live here. Where do you live? Yonkers. I live down on Fordham Road, right? And so Mount Vernon, we're losing about $450 million a year of our revenue, our residents' revenue, because they're shopping and they're entertained and they're staying in hotels and they're getting services and buying their basic needs outside of our community. So we're not a poor community. We have to stop acting as if we're poor. We have a lot of wealth, but what we have not done is make sure that we maintain or attracted the type of diverse businesses that will speak from those who are impoverished to those who are wealthy. And so we want to recycle the money in our community. If we could just start there and making sure that we are putting together a plan and attracting those type of services, and that's what we want to hear. We want to hear, what do you want 4th Avenue to look like? What kind of shopping and businesses and restaurants? Do you want a hotel? Do you want an entertainment district? Do you want jazz clubs? You know, all of that, that's not just about what the neighborhood looks like. That is about having a thriving city where you can live, work, play, purchase, pray, run with your dogs, do whatever you want to do. And that is some of what we are trying to glean from the audience in some of these processes. And the last thing I want to say, and I won't say anything else for the rest of the night, I promise, right? But when we're talking about consultants, I need you to know that this team are not only regional, but they're nationally recognized. Nationally recognized. So these are certified, credentialed, licensed community planners. And they have done this type of work regionally and nationally. And I'm gonna say this is my planning commissioner. He became an American Institute of Certified Planners Fellow. That is not a recognition that goes out easily. And you got that in May?
Got that officially in May.
Officially in May. And so very, very sought after, and has done this type of work we're looking to revitalize. There's this word we always hear about, gentrification, where people come in and neighborhoods are invested in and everyone is pushed out, that the revitalization is not for those who live there. We want to revitalize this community for people who have chosen to live here and for people who are also interested in coming here. We're not looking to displace, knock out, tear down, and make Mount Vernon something that you can't recognize, nor can any of us afford. That's not what we're looking to do, and so we need your input. And yes, there's lots of skepticism. And if you looked at the 1968 comprehensive plan, the leaders in this city didn't listen to a daggone thing that plan said. They said, don't build any more public housing around Leicester Towers, and we built Centennial Homes, and we built Ebony Gardens. They said, put restaurants, put supermarkets, put schools in that neighborhood. We did none of that. None of that. They said, make the community and the neighborhoods more diverse so that we're not segregating people. We did everything that the plan told us not to do. And that's why we are where we are. And so we need your voice and we need your trust. We can sit back and talk about who did what and what we don't trust, and then we will not get a plan that's going to be reflective of our whole community. So please, we are asking you for a moment to trust the process, and to lean in and to have your voices heard so that we can create like the most awesome stew that is reflective of our cultures, our ages, and our socioeconomics, and all of the dimensions of diversity that we have in our community. Thank you.
So 2 things just to follow up. Just, 'cause I know you asking about data, and you waiting for that data. You're hungry for that. So with 2 things. Is that first and most important is that we're currently working with Local Initiative Support Corporation, LISC, and this group called Street Sense. Now, Street Sense, the person working for Street Sense is a woman named Larissa Ortiz. She is working with LISC to update the South Fourth Corridor plan done in 2017. And so unfortunately, our Director of Economic Development, Andrea Haynes, could not make it tonight, but she's leading the charge in updating that because even though that's only 5.5 years old, lots happened since then. A lot has happened. So we need a refresher of how are the businesses doing, who's shopping on South Fourth, what's happening there, what do people want to see there now, as opposed to 5-6 years ago. And so we're getting to the finish line with that, and folks ask, like, well, why are you doing that plan when you're doing the comprehensive plan? It doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. This is data gathering. There was an opportunity. We took hold of that opportunity. The money was there. We did it, and so we're getting some of that data now. Some of the other data, which isn't data, was the mayor talked about some development pressure. When I walked through the door 1 year and 2 days ago, is that there were 3 transit-oriented development proposals on the table for Mount Vernon East train station. Now, you can't have 3 separate transit-oriented development proposals for a train station. What they really were private developers who bought up a bunch of parcels and said, I have a transit-oriented development proposal. Meaning, they wanted to do business the way business had been done. And the mayor talked about some the towers that have gone up. those were specific deals. Those, something called spot zoning, and there were promises made. Whether they were kept, wait to be seen. But we need, that part of the comprehensive plan is to do it in a deliberate way. And so with this pressure happening, and with certain promises previous city councils had made with agreements, we knew we spoke with each developer, was saying, we understand you bought a lot of property, but you're gonna have to wait. You're gonna have to wait because this city council ran on a platform of moratorium until we get through each phase of the plan. And so for phase one, when we finish it out, that's when we could start considering rezoning proposals. They may want to come in with a 30-story building. Y'all might say, we don't mind going up around the train station, but it can't be higher than 22 or whatever number it is. And so we're going to say we're going to adhere to what the plan says and follow that. And so those were like two of the big drivers, is because we knew we were updating the South Fourth plan. We wanted to bleed into Gramerton Avenue also to capture that, but also is just acknowledging the pressure, which is good. People are interested, but they got to do it right, and that's a big part of this process. So, yeah. So I know y'all probably have more questions, but we have to get through. We just need to get through, so we're going to have more opportunity later. So if you could wait, we'll get through the process.
Yes, we want to be conscious of time. Part of the main reason you are here is because we want to hear from you. So we want to move through the exercises that we've facilitated for you all tonight. And of course, we're always available for additional questions that you all have. So I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Commissioner Molina.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So we want to get an idea of who's in the room. So, some of you may know each other. Some of you may be seeing each other for the first time. So raise your hand if you live in Mount Vernon. Okay? Raise your hand if you work in Mount Vernon. Okay? And now raise your hand if your family has been here longer than 10 years. Okay? Anyone been here less than 10 years? Okay? Have you ever participated in a comprehensive planning process? Raise your hand. Okay, so less hands went up. Have you ever participated in a community visioning session or planning session? Okay, great. So now that you've seen what kind of experience your neighbors have, as we said at the beginning, the ideas that you're going to put forth are based on your experience, are based on your needs. And so before we get started with challenges and opportunities, I want you to think about how you see Mount Vernon in 10, 20 years. This is going to be a visioning session. And we're going to be using this purple paper. And we're going to be collecting everything that you write down. And we're going to be sending it directly to the consultant. So your thoughts, your ideas, your vision is going to be shared directly with the consultant. And then they're going to synthesize it. Do you need another one? Oh, you got more. Okay, great. So we're going to take 2 minutes to write this down. And I want you to get in a space where you're thinking about how, what you want to see in Mount Vernon. Think about places that you've traveled to and you're like, I would love to have this in my own community. Think about, things that you think would make Mount Vernon more convenient. And it's like a dream session, a visioning session. So nothing's too big, nothing's too fancy. Don't think about cost. Just think about, what is the benefit that you want to see come to Mount Vernon. So take 2 minutes to write down quietly at your table. And then we're going to take 5 minutes for you to, share back on what you wrote down. We're not going to have a chance to get everyone's input, which is the reason why we're going to collect the paper afterwards. So take 2 minutes, please. All right, you can continue to write. Is there anyone who's ready to share? Raise your hand.
I'm also sharing this speaking not as the fire commissioner because the planning department did a great job of getting all of our departments together prior to this, which was a good thing. They started with our needs. So I'm answering this as a resident who has a homeowner, and my family also lives here for years too. In 10 years, I see new roads and streets in downtown Mount Vernon. I see a hotel and at least 1 or 2 family restaurants. I see a new fire station / EMS facility that we would have a new firehouse, a place for ambulances downtown. And I see at least 1 new parking garage and at least 2 that are there revitalized and refurbished.
Next person. Raise your hand. Who's next?
I'd like to see better businesses where we shop, no more dollar stores, more eateries, restaurants, nice restaurants. I'd like to see movie theaters. We used to have 2 or 3 here in Mount Vernon back in the day, the ones that can remember. I'd like to see more entertainment for the children. We had our YMCAs, they're gone. And we also had a bowling alley here in Mount Vernon back in the day. And I'd like to see a hospital for Mount Vernon, for our residents here in Mount Vernon.
Okay, one more person.
So I would like to see the cut in downtown covered with parkland and then the north and south side stitched together. Multi-use development creating a thriving integrated resi commercial district with specialty shops, professional services offices, and entertainment activities. Communal activities that are scheduled to take place in a revitalized First Street and Fourth Avenue that draws the citizens together, and trees on every street of downtown that'll help lessen the heat island effect.
Thank you. We got time for one more person.
All right. So, although I live here, I just moved here in 2014. I'm from the city. So coming to Mount Vernon was like a culture shock, especially with the stores. So for me, as someone who come from the outside coming in, I want to see the whole Fourth cleaned out. Like get rid of every last store over there and start over fresh. Put businesses that we can actually utilize, not because someone want to pop up with a business tomorrow and think that we need it. We don't need a whole bunch of dollar stores. There's too many dollar stores. There's too many barbershops, too many hair salons, too many churches. Now, I go to church, don't get me wrong. But there's too many of the same redundant businesses that are popping up in Mount Vernon overnight that we don't need. We don't need them here. We're not a place that's destitute that want to give somebody a handout and say, here, take this and run with it. Fourth serves no purpose. There's too many of the same stores. So I would like something that I can take my kids to and say, hey, let's go to this store, and shop there. I shop in the Bronx, or I go to White Plains. I do go to Target, though, don't get me wrong. But I'm just saying, we just need something that's more profitable, that's going to pour back into Mount Vernon, money-wise, taxes, hire within the community of people who need a job and that can pour back into your community. When you live here and you see something wrong, when you get hired here, you pour back in. And when you pour back in, your kids and family and your friends begin to pour back in. That's all.
Thank you. So, that's part of the process, and now we're going to focus on challenges and opportunities. So I'm going to bring back Associate Commissioner Maya for that. Oh, you come.
Great. So now that we move to the next exercise, keep your grand vision in mind, right? The future, what you want the city to look like, all of the benefits that you just named. And we're going to get a little bit more nitty-gritty. So we're going to do a multi-part exercise where we want to hear from you. What are the challenges to getting there currently that you see? But also, what are the opportunities, right? What are some of the assets that you know exist? What are some ideas that you have about how to make the city better? And we're going to use a bit of a framework to help structure the conversation. So again, we're focused on downtown today. And you might see some additional colored paper beyond the purple there at your tables. And so when you're thinking about challenges or opportunities, you have paper that reflects an opportunity for you to share your reflections around open space and parks, transportation and mobility, housing, and businesses. So you may be really excited about one of those topics. You may have ideas around all of them. Feel free to capture what is important to you. And so we're going to spend a few minutes just allowing you, again, to gather your thoughts across those 4 topic areas. Or if there's something maybe that is not one of those, but you feel really strongly about, feel free to just capture and write a note about what that topic is. And then we're going to have a bit of a discussion at your table, so you can get a sense of what are some of the similarities, what are some maybe new ideas that you hadn't considered. And we're going to have you kind of have a facilitated conversation there, and then we're going to ask you all to share back with the full group. So again, we're going to spend the next few minutes just capturing your ideas silently. What are some ideas you have around making the housing situation better? How do we add more green space? What are some challenges that you think we need to address before we get to a better Mount Vernon in the next decade and beyond? And then we're going to move you all to a discussion with your table. Any clarifying questions on that? Okay. No particular order. We'll give you a few minutes. Gather your thoughts however works for you.
All right, everyone, let's begin wrapping up. I'm so excited that everyone's so excited, but let's gather our thoughts together and report back. You know, it's 5 minutes to 8. We want to be respectful of everyone's time and thankful of Mount Vernon Congregational Church for hosting us. We don't want to be abusive of their time. So I'm going to turn over to Associate Commissioner Major.
All right, so we're just going to go table by table and just ask that the person who took notes just share back for 2 minutes what came up in your conversation, and in particular, what were some of maybe the trends or similarities when it came to challenges or opportunities. And so we want to make sure we hear from all of the tables. We're going to try to stick to 2-minute summary, and I'll go one by one. So I'm going to start here. Who's going to do the report back? 2-minute summary of your discussion.
You made eye contact.
Hold on, I make sure that I
You want me
get
to
my
set the
full
timer?
2 minutes. Yeah, I want
All
to get my
right,
full
I got
2
the
minutes.
timer for you.
But anyway, for housing, we said for the city ordinance for garbage and dog poop, it just, that needs to be done, all right? Also, we want to see abandoned properties, those gone, maintain sewers. Also trees, not just in parks, but along our blocks. A lot of times those trees, if we, thank God we didn't have a big snow, but the branches will come down, almost hit a car. That's not good. Also, we'd like to see more businesses, viable businesses coming to help lower the homeowners' taxes. We want to see repair of the roads. We think they should reroute traffic based on the new traffic patterns, because some of these streets that were two-way streets, no longer, we can't do it. They have to be changed to one-way streets. It's just too crowded now, okay? We also want to see the city to comply with the ordinance about giving tickets. We have a car on Grandview Avenue. It's a year this month that we've been asking to be taken away. They don't ticket it. It's just sitting there. It's bunched up. It's like an accordion, and it's been there for so long. We go to City Hall, to the meetings, and it's still there. So that needs to be done. And also, again, like I said, the more businesses to help lower homeowners' taxes. We would like to reconsider what you want to do with that parking lot across from City Hall and the one near the plaza, maybe a mini mall, because you can't even use a parking lot up there. I think the last 2 floors, it's just there, it's disrepair. And like I said, someone on our table suggested a mini mall. And the last is for Brush Park. Revitalize that for our children. When I know when my kids were younger, you can go out there, you could cook out. No one wants to use those grills out there anymore. So those kinds of things. Did I get my 2 minutes in? Oh, see?
That was the perfect model of how you do a 2-minute report back. Thank you so much, first table. Who is going to report back from this table? Does anyone want to share back some of the conversations here? Thank you. 2 minutes, please.
Yes. So some of the things we discussed, definitely it's what the other group has already. Some of the same things that are already up. Added to that, we also want to look at the traffic flow going through Wilson Woods, a cell tower near residents. As far as the business section or the business topic, full functioning Chamber of Commerce, definitely the entertainment that is inviting to families, the YMCA, again, the movie theater, our library upgraded to a state-of-art library. I think we talked about hotel that would be accommodating to inviting to have people want to come visit Mount Vernon. Definitely the green space, parks, downtown area, no more. Nail salons, no more on 4th Avenue, no more nail salons, hair stores, all of those things that have been named already. There is a fish market on the corner of 4th Avenue that should not be in the middle of clothing stores and things like that, someone brought up. Also, our younger person here at the table wants to see the school system the problem with guns, I'm sorry, weapons being brought in within the schools, and she asked about metal detectors. They want a safer school, let's put it that way, a safer school environment, and this constant flow of security guards change so that there is a consistency as it pertains to the school system, okay?
Thank you so much. And if you hear an idea that has already been shared, feel free to share a new one, so that way we can get as many ideas and concerns out tonight. Thank you.
Well, we talked about shuttle service around the city, especially electric buses that you don't necessarily have to pay for, that'll bring you to a downtown area so you can shop. Definitely hotel with restaurants around it so that people will come from Manhattan and eat and stay in Mount Vernon. Also, something about making Mount Vernon appear to be more safe. We get a bad rap. We do not have crime at the rate that we seem to be, that is projected that we have. We are a safe city for the most part, but we need to have better advertisement that says that. When I was a kid growing up, the police used to come to the schools. They used to come by, we used to have the fire department come to your house and check to make sure your extinguishers worked and that your place was safe. We don't have any of those kinds of services anymore. They need to be reissued and done once again. Get to know your neighbor, doing more about knowing who your neighbor is and doing a lot because we've lost a lot of that over time. Additional parking. We're putting up buildings with no parking. Every building has 0 place for people, and you've got everybody who's got a car or 2 or 3. So for sure, definitely more parking. And I think that, did I get it all? I think that's it.
Thank you. All right, who is reporting back here? Great.
Okay, I will speak. What number table are we? I don't know. But we have, starting with parks and open space, we have suggestions for trees and green spaces, community gardens and urban farming accommodations, upgraded parking, and more bike lanes, sitting areas, a dog park, beautification in general, recreation center with indoor pool. That sounds rich. In the mobile and transportation area, we have suggestions for the right, can you help me with that? The right small burners?
The right small businesses.
Right small businesses.
To capture the train.
Right, by trains to capitalize on transportation, right? And to cover the train tracks, another popular suggestion. That being the so-called center cut, for anyone not familiar. Also to update our taxi services. Maybe we can get some elaboration on that. I'm not sure how that might happen. But we also want to accommodate our bikes with biking lanes and up-to-date parking lots. In the business area, we have suggestions for bowling alleys, box family restaurants. Whose was that? Does anyone want to elaborate on that? Okay, so, and hotels, and a kid zone, computer lab, and that was it for business. And in housing, we have suggestions for affordable housing with parking, mixed-use building by downtown. Mixed-use building downtown by the trains, more modern building townhouses, and that wraps our suggestions.
Who's reporting back from this table? Great. Thank you.
So our general conversation is we focused on downtown and talked about the need for more upscale and specialty shops, using the river towns as an example of successful villages where you have those non-big box retail in the downtown area. Some of the things that we also talked about, the types of businesses would be bookstores, cafes, coffee bars, and this one I think would be great. Workplaces like a WeWork or an Industrious that is located downtown to respond to remote work that is currently a trend in the business world. 4th Avenue and 1st Street are the two areas that need the greatest amount of attention. Redo is, I'm being nice right now. Today there's a lot of empty storefronts and they need to be filled, and there are too many of the similar type stores, which some of you have touched on. We started a branding exercise, and I'm going to give credit where credit's due. We have a tagline called One Mount Vernon, and we think that that is an important message to send out so that all 4 square miles are connected. There needs to be more democracy in spreading the perception of the areas of Mount Vernon. Everything is unique, but there is a perception that the north side is nicer than the south side, and there needs to be more attention paid in developing that, add more greenery to that area, especially on the south side. And we talked about Sanford Boulevard. I know that's not downtown, but stretching out as a retail corridor. It's not the successful retail corridor that it was envisioned to be, and there's a lot of work that needs to happen with that. Anything else?
All right, 2 more tables to go. Who is reporting back on this end here? Thank you.
The only non-employee here. Okay, we talked about a lot about parks because downtown is a lot of cement and concrete. We were playing with the thought of doing the exercise of prioritizing pedestrians over cars, opening long tree wells along the sidewalks instead of getting rid of them, widening sidewalks, closing a shopping block down to have better shopping, better stores, an active chamber of commerce that helps these stores and keep the businesses here that are valuable. We talked about covering the train tracks for an undivided city, for our central park where we can grow together, be together, have a outdoor theater, having outdoor exercise equipment available like the ones at South Street Seaport, public installations of art, play, games, over those train tracks. There's space for also a tree nursery because we need young trees to service our dying forests to make that grow again. We have on 3rd Street a widening of the road where we could make extra park area, promenade, make the restaurant alley there to set the tone. Because the sunsets are nice up there. A lot more benches, programs that assist families that do not want to move and have lived here in Mount Vernon. Basically prioritize our health over the hunger for money because the health is our money, and money also grows on trees, what I've heard. What else? What's another idea? I forgot. There's a building on 5th and 3rd that should be converted into emergency housing. And a couple of parks need attention to restructure them so the activities play better. Yeah, I think that's it, right?
All right, last but not least.
Thank you. Good evening. Business, uniform storefronts, leisure areas, better sidewalk, better lighting, theaters, music venues, parking structures, business incubators, boutique clothing, boutiques clothing and personal goods, sit-down restaurants, small cafes, with mobility and transportation, a trolley linking the north side to the north to south. Basically, we're looking also for parking for semi-trucks or cam cars that are just left, just abandoned on the street. We're also looking for, I'll go to housing, Housing, we're looking at artist lofts, more affordable and starter homes, avoid casting shadows, ADUs, accessory dwelling units, mixed income, mixed-use housing with amenities, preservation of 1- and 2-family neighborhoods, park and open space, kids park, dog run, bicycle lanes, roofs as green space, community gardens, rivers cleaned with trails, an exercise station, cover the tracks, pedestrian walking areas, more walkability, better lighting, running trail, universal playground, more green around the library, more space for murals and public art. Sorry, the guy who's the scribe, I apologize. But you're collectively.
Give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you, everyone. So we heard so many new ideas tonight, and as you saw, we also heard a lot of the same ideas, right? So we can start getting a sense of what are some of the shared priorities for residents here in the city. So we're going to move to close. I'm going to turn it back to DC Molina. We're going to talk about a few next steps, and we will let you go home. Thank you again for your time tonight.
Thank you again. So, if we're going to continue to have a great turnout like we had tonight, we need your help. We need your help. So the next meeting is actually on February 25th. We're going to be having a meeting in Portuguese with the Portuguese American Club. That's at 10:30 a.m. And then we're going to have a meeting in Spanish, so it will be at the Church of St. Mary at 1 p.m. And then on March 19, March 9, yes. Yeah, my birthday. We're going to have a party. Where are you? Who's saying that? You are? Okay. Invite 100 friends. So.
Yeah, we're going to be at the Wartburg, so we can make it very fancy.
We're going to do this via Zoom as well, so there's plenty of opportunities. So just spread the word. Go to our website, Envision Mount Vernon, and I'd like to invite you to start a texting tree. Friends and family in Mount Vernon, send them a text. Tell them about your experience here tonight, and if you know someone that's been complaining, or someone that just has an opinion about what they want to see in Mount Vernon, we want that information. So please spread the word. And if you have any questions, you can call our department at 914-840-4029.
We have flyers as well, so obviously thank you for joining us, but take the flyer, share it with your neighbors, text it to your friends. Again, we want to make sure that we get as many new faces who know about this process and are engaged over the next 2 years. And I also just want to say thank you to the Mount Vernon Heights Congregational Church for hosting us tonight. We've been making an effort to have meetings across the city, so it's been very valuable to have partners that have been welcoming us into their space. So thank you again, everyone. Yes, we will be collecting all of the papers, so please leave them at your tables. We're taking every single one of your ideas. Please leave them behind. Thank you again.